don't know. So you're just going to try stuff. You try this, you try that. And it's like a new situation, new environment. And it's like one way of engaging with the mystery, right? It's like dealing with a toddler.
I think you just summed up parenting in that phrase. It's like we're just trying stuff. That's all any parent is doing. There's all kinds of books and resources out there, and you can try some of those things. They may work, they may not. Ultimately, you have to just try with your kid and figure out what works with your kid and your family. And I think as long as you're being loving and maintaining some awareness, then you really can't go wrong. Like everybody loses their temper. Like, sure, a young kid, a toddler is going to lose their temper way quicker than I am. But if the toddler loses their temper enough, then I start to reach my edge of containment within myself. And the challenge is to not let it out at them, because it's not their fault. They just like you said, they don't maybe have the words to describe what's going on with them or to even tell you what they need, or maybe they're just so overcome with emotions that they can't respond or do anything, in a grounded way. I kind of view kids as feminine, like until they're 7. If whether they're a boy or a girl, they're just in the feminine. They're kind of in unconsciousness. They're kind of just doing, they're just living. They're almost like how animals just live. They don't question their existence. They just live. That's what kids are like, in my opinion. And then once they hit a certain age or level of development, that masculine directedness and self-reflection comes in. And so I try and remind myself of that, because it's really, really easy to lose sight of the fact that kids are just in total unconscious reaction most of the time. But she does really good. I've shared with you before, she will like sit and meditate with me for like 30 seconds or a minute, and I'm like, okay, that's getting in there. She'll remember doing that with me, and now she wants to do that with me. Papa, can we go meditate? And I'm like, ah.
That's
you,
amazing.
you don't even really know what that means, but it's something we do together. And I just love being able to show her things that have made my life better and that have made me more conscious and aware and growth oriented. Like she picks up on that stuff. I mean, just for example, we went to not yesterday, but the day before, we went to a number of places, but we ended up at this river spot off of J and 75th, and we just like sat there by the river, not talking. We were just kind of like being with nature and observing. We sat there for like an hour and a half, and we had little conversations and stuff, but a lot of it was just sitting there quietly, just being with the birds, being with the little mud wasp that comes back to the same spot to collect mud for his nest and then takes off and comes back, takes off. We just watched all that, and it was so experiential for me, and beautiful to just witness her being being present with life in her own toddler way, and my ability to just let go and relax into the moment and not have an agenda of like, oh, I gotta get going, let's go swimming, let's go eat. It was just like total presence. So parenting has definitely made me a much gentler, much calmer man.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking. How was your weekend?
It was good. I've been building a bed frame for me and Elise. We got a new mattress last week, and I really like building stuff for myself and like being able to design it, and I kind of get like a nerd out on it, I'm like obsessed with like, okay, like how do I want to design it, and like trying to figure out like drawing it out, and looking at other examples, and it's kind of like it's this little like puzzle that my mind like just latches onto, and like for days when I meditate, when I'm laying in sleep, like asleep, when I'm just sitting around, like my mind is just chewing on it, like, okay, well, how do I want that piece to fit, and how do I want that piece to fit? And it's sometimes it's a little obsessive, but it's also like I just kind of enjoy that about my mind. It's like I like paying attention to the details and seeing how it's all going to fit together. And even like I had like a plan, like all drawn out, um on like graph paper. So it's like a pretty good, I thought it was a pretty good like rendering of like, okay, these are like the slats and how that's how things gonna go fit together. And then we had to like, I scratched it all. I was like talking with Elise, it's like, oh, we don't really want those like corners, and like thinking of like, having a baby soon and not wanting it to be like baby friendly with not sharp corners and stuff. So I was like, crap, I gotta like scratch all that, start over. But it's been a fun project, and it's almost done. And it feels good to just kind of put some energy into our room too, with a new mattress, and kind of just like having this like a little sanctuary, in our inner space. So that's feeling good. And I just got like a bunch of like self-care. I got a massage from Izzy on Saturday, and then jumped in the creek, and then went to Tonic and got a nice little herbal what tincture thing. And then yesterday had a session with the energy worker I'm working with. Um, so yeah, feeling good. Feeling
Awesome,
good.
dude. There's a lot that brought up for me. First of all, I love to hear that you're creating something, and it sounds like there's a lot of passion and aliveness around this project. And I've been really intrigued by this idea of being a creator lately, and the creative process. And what you're describing is like an artistic process. You've got your plans, and then you had to scrap them and start over because it wasn't ultimately what you guys wanted, and your mind's working out, how's it going to fit together, how's it going to look, what kind of materials am I going to use, and it's something that's going to last for you and your beloved, and ultimately your child.
Mm.
And the thing I've been really tuning into lately is, I got Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act, and I love
Mhm.
it. It's just like quick little snippets about creativity. And one of the things that I read recently is that an artist's creation is like a diary entry for that period of time in the creator's life. Like, say you create a song, that song is like a snapshot of your inner state at that given point in time. And years from now, it'll be like a diary entry, it'll be a memory that captured the essence of where you were in that point in time. And I just love your carpentry, creating this bed frame that's like a snapshot
Mm.
of where you are in your life before your child was born. You're in this really sweet time with your wife, and you're also creating this life around you. So I just wanted to share that with you because it seems, like that's how I've been looking at all creations, as a snapshot or a diary entry. And I just wonder what that brings up for you.
I love that. Um, yeah, it brings up a couple things. One, it's as I'm in this process, and there are like little decisions I'm making of like, there's a piece like around the bed frame that I'm finishing. I'm using like a sealant on, like a non-toxic sealant, and I like chose I did some research. I want it to be like, non-toxic, and if babies like putting their mouth on it, like it's safe, and like, so I did like just a lot of thought went into that. But then there's also like these decisions of, okay, do I want to do that for the whole thing? Like, you're not going to see this thing, right? And part of me is like, I love engaging with this thing and making it beautiful. And part of me wants to just do like all of it, all the wood gets sealed. But then there's also this other like factor of how much time do I have and want to spend on this thing. So I'm just making decisions of like, okay, you know what, that part I don't have to finish that part with this sealant because it's good enough and it can be raw wood underneath. Um, and it just makes me think like there have been times where I've just like slapped together something like, all right, that's a shelf. I need a shelf. That's raw plywood, 2x4. Great, I have a shelf. And that's a little diary entry of like, yeah, that's where I was. That's what I needed. It was functional, right? And I got it done. But this time I am spending more time to make it beautiful and like spending the time and care and energy to like I want it to be beautiful. And so that very much captures like where I'm at energetically and like how much love do I want to put into this thing. And it makes me think of like a couple other projects I've done in the past. Like I have this bookshelf I made years ago, 12 years ago. And sometimes I look back on it, I'm like, I'm proud of it. And I'm like, I don't even know how I made this thing 12 years ago. Like I barely had any tools. I didn't really have any experience building stuff. I found a good plan on the line and I followed it and I took some time to do it. I didn't have a job back then, so I had time available. Um, but I can look at that as a diary entry of like, oh, that's where I was when I was making that. Like I was in a creative place. I just moved to Colorado and I had time and enough like stick to itiveness to engage and make something that has lasted for 12 years and looks pretty decent, you know. So I love that. Yeah. Huh. I want to chew on that more. Makes me want to read that book.
Oh, you would love it. I'm just, a slow drip. I'm just reading little entries here and there as I'm stepping more into being the creator that I am.
Mm.
And all of us have this capacity to create things. We're creating our perception of the world around us all the time. So it's a natural capacity. But when we engage with the world in a way that brings out a part of ourselves and makes it real, makes it something that lasts, like your bed frame, it sounds like you're making it well, that could last you forever.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be an old man and be like, wow, when I was making this thing, it was before we had our first child. And I really remember that time, that summer
Mm.
that Kristian and I were doing men's workshops and started the podcast. We just started our podcast, and I just love the idea of taking a period of time and a piece of myself and making it real and making it something that can be looked back upon,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah. It makes me think too, there's this little, like a shift in perspective I could feel is like sometimes these things for me, it's just like it ends up being like a task. It's like, all right, I just got to get that done. So it's done, right? I need a bed frame. I got to just build a bed frame and just, but there's a different, and it feels like at first it was that for me. It was like, I just got to build a bed frame, like there's so much stuff on my list. I got to just do it. But as I'm engaging with it, it's more like I'm actually carving out space to like, I'm going to engage with this creative act. And I'm going to like, just that's the thing I'm doing and almost like let it expand and fill up space and just be with it. As opposed to let's just get it done. I need it to be done. um,
Well, there's a big difference between creating something and accomplishing it just to get it done, and creating something and working on it until it's to your liking. Like once it's to your liking and you feel good about it and you love it, that's all that really matters when you're creating something. Do you love it?
mhm,
If you love it, then you have an obligation to share it. Like, your bed, you're going to share with your beloved, and that's your sacred space, your bed that you share with her. But anything that you create, once it's been created to your liking, it's sort of like the artist's duty to share it with the world.
mm,
And as soon as you share it with the world, it kind of clears up more space for you to create more. It's like you're jumping in the creative flow. You work on something, you labor over it intensively. You work on the fine details. Finish it, and then you release it. That's almost like energetically, okay, I've put this thing out into the world, and now something else can come through.
mm,
What else is ready to come through? And it's not until it's been released. Like once it's been released, then that creative process can continue. And maybe you're working on multiple things at the same time, which often we are.
mm,
But each time that you release something that you're pleased with, it gives you more space to create more. And also, if you're pleased with it, somebody else is bound to like it. Like if you release a piece of art before it's complete to your liking, then I guess it doesn't really matter if somebody else likes it or not. If you like it, it's good. But if you work on it until you're completely satisfied with it, until it's perfect in your eyes, then guaranteed somebody else is going to see that beauty too.
mm, mhm. I believe that for sure. I'm just like, and to me, I'm hearing it's like that the love, right? Like something is made with love. Anything that's made with love, like somehow that's imparted, right? Like food that's made with love versus just like factory, assembly line sort of thing. Like you can taste the difference, and like it's kind of said as a joke, but I don't even know if it's said as a joke, but like things like people put on the ingredient list like love, right? Like that's there's an intention there. And it also, like to everything has two sides, or at least two sides, right? But like to balance that out, it's like there are times, and a lot of times for me it's like maybe not perfection, but good enough, or like learning how to really be okay with like, yeah, that's good enough to share, right? Because there's definitely a perfectionist in me that be like, it's not quite ready, it's not quite ready, it's not quite ready, which is somehow is like out of fear or something. It's like, no, it is, it's good enough, you know so like finding that balance of like, yeah, just sit with it, engage with it until you love it, until it is perfect. And where's that line of like, yeah, perfect enough, it's good, you know and maybe it's like, as you were saying, like releasing things and sharing, I was picturing this fountain, right, of this like overflowing fountain, and I'm sharing it with the world. And there's something that's like, this project might be the most alive thing, and I'm going to engage with it and mold it, and not be afraid to scrap it and start over because it's not quite right, and then like finish it and find details and all this stuff. And it may not be like perfect. There may still be things that like, I could do that, I could do that, but maybe the energy, like something new is coming up already. Like something's in the queue that's ready to be engaged with. It's like, you know what, this is good enough, and I can put it out there and share it, because the energy is actually flowing in a new direction now, or like the new project is ready. And so I don't know. Yeah, it just makes me think of like this, like it's such a dynamic dance, right? And it's all like, to me, it feels like it's like the ability to just be present and accept what's true, what's alive. Like, okay, yeah, you know what? There's nothing else on my plate, and no, I'm gonna take my time and make this thing perfect. That could be the most
Mhm.
alive thing. Or like, okay, it's good enough. And snapshot, the diary snapshot is like, that's what this thing is. It's perfect in its imperfections, and I'm gonna be done with it and move on to the next thing. Because that's where I'm at right now.
Yes. I think there's definitely something to that, because if you get caught up in perfectionism too long, then maybe enough time has passed where that snapshot isn't even true for you anymore. You know, you can overwork something. You can overwork on it until it's not true for you. And if you
Yeah.
continue on that perfectionism path, trying to make it better and better and better and better, maybe by the time the amount of time that you've spent on it, it takes it away from what it was originally meant to be. You know, like if you try too hard to make it perfect for too long, and you that perfectionism is what's keeping you from releasing it into the world, then that's actually holding you back. And I think that's part of the skill that an artist has to learn is I have an impulse to create something. I'm going to create it to the best of my ability with the tool that is my body and my mind that I've honed over the years. Like, you've been working on carpentry for a long time. I imagine what you've created now is better quality than what you created 12 years ago, because you've honed your tools, not only your carpentry tools, but your body and mind. You've honed that to a greater degree. So your artistic output is going to be better than it was previously. But that doesn't make your previous creation any less good. Like, you still enjoy that bookcase because it's something that you created. And at that point in time, you created with what you had. Right. And so there's a point where releasing your art actually makes you a better artist, because it tells you when to stop.
Mm.
It tells you when your work is done. Like, this whole conversation is making me think of Jesus. You know, Jesus was, if he was a real man, was apparently a carpenter. Even he was a creator. He was a healer and a creator, but he understood that in order to be aligned with God, with the universal principle, you have to create,
Mm.
because we were created. It's an interesting thing. Like, as we keep talking, I keep the image of Jesus. It just keeps coming up. I'm
Mm.
almost seeing you right now with long hair and white robes.
Wow. Fascinating. I mean, it just strikes me that, you know, you just turned 33, which is like the Jesus year, right? Like that's what like people say. Like, and I that's an interesting, I mean, idea in itself. I know that 33 for me was a potent year. Um, and you know, I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Like, my understanding of that is like 33 was supposedly the age that Jesus, like, that he was crucified, right? Like that was his like his big year where he's like, this is me, you know, he like fully came into his own. And you know, there was like a period where nothing is written about Jesus, and it's just like we don't know what happened there. But then like 32, 33 comes around and he's like fully realized, you know, and just like
Mm-hmm.
he's like, he knows who he is. He knows he's God incarnate. And he's preaching his message and he's sharing and he's, you know, like not afraid of the ramifications of, I'm going to say these things and it's going to piss people off, and I'm going to get killed for it. You know, but he's just like, what else can he do but be himself? I'm curious what that brings up for you. Or
It definitely resonates, and I'd love to share the dream that I had the night before my birthday, because it's very much in line with what you're talking about. And I've been thinking a lot about the story of Jesus and his death and resurrection, and how that may be allegorical for all human beings in how we can transform and become our true self. But the night before my 33rd birthday, I had a dream that I was living the day, except somehow I knew that that day I was supposed to die. And I was going to die that day. I knew it. It was inevitable. I was going to die, and it was my choice when I was going to die on that day, but I had to die. And so I'm living my life, and I'm really sad because I'm like, I'm not ready to leave. I'm not ready to go. I have so much more I want to do. I'm going to miss all these people. I was talking to them and crying. I'm going to miss you so much. I can't believe I have to die today. And it was very real for me. In the dream, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. What am I going to do? This is the last day that I'm going to be alive. And in waking life, I have told myself this story that I'm not afraid to die, or that, I trust so much in the spiritual existence that there's not a lot of fear there for me when I really think about dying. But in that dream, when I was really confronted with the fact that I was going to die, I was terrified. I was so scared, so sad, so scared, not ready to go. And I didn't end up making it to my death. I woke up before that happened, but I woke up on my 33rd birthday, and I was like, holy shit, what about me is dying right now? What in my past 32 years of existence is ready to die, and what is ready to be reborn? And, I do feel like this is a potent year. I feel like I'm stepping more into myself now than I ever have. And like I mentioned at the men's group the other day, I'm not seeping energy. I'm just being myself. It's so easy to be myself. And I have so much more energy now because I'm not trying to be anything that I'm not, that I feel like this 33rd year I'm going to remember, because it really does feel like a death and resurrection for me. And I'm stepping into a new way of being, a more extroverted, a more willing to share version of myself that has been there all along, but hasn't quite healed or been ready to show himself. And so this year, and especially after I get back from my little vacation, I'm going to be doing a little creative commitment as a way to step into this artist that I feel blooming within myself. I'm just feeling just more and more impulses to create and share. And I don't necessarily have a selected medium. I create in a lot of ways, but I'm feeling more and more drawn to create in videographic ways. Like I want to start making and editing more videos, and of course music. But that was a long-winded way of saying, yes, I feel reborn.
Wow. Potent, man.
Crazy.
What a something. What a beautiful just kind of affirmation from the universe, and your unconscious becoming conscious, and having that dream right before your 33rd birthday. I thought of this question earlier when we started talking about creativity, that a while back you were saying you were feeling this urge, and you wanted to paint, and I was just curious if you had painted yet, if that had come out, or
that impulse is still there, and I still see how I'm going to start, and I haven't painted yet. I've been creating in a lot of other ways. For some reason, I still haven't been able to get out the easel and the paints. And I could tell myself all kinds of excuses as to why I haven't done it yet. I've, had different priorities. I don't feel like I have the creative space a lot of the time when the impulse is there, just, with family and other responsibilities. But those are all just excuses. I don't know what's going to happen when I do start doing that, but that impulse is just still very much there.
Hmm. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the creative blocks was, as I closed my kombucha company last year, and I haven't brewed any kombucha at all. And I've been so resistant to doing it. The girls have been asking me to make it. And finally, I brewed a batch of honey kombucha last week with it was just green tea, honey, and we have this huge rose bush in our backyard, and I put a ton of fresh rose petals in there. And man, it is so good. I think it's probably one of the best batches I've ever made. And
Amazing.
that was huge for me to just because I was so over making kombucha because I did it day in and day out for years and years and years. And finally I just did it and it was really, really good. And I took the time and care to make sure every part of the process was done perfectly. And I've shared it with a couple people, love to share some with you. But that love that you were talking about earlier really came through because I made it for my girls and I made it with rose, which is a heart medicine.
Mm.
And it just smells and tastes like pure fresh roses. So,
Wow.
I think I had to do that first. And little by little, I'm chipping away at these creative blocks.
Amazing. I had such a similar experience with fermenting, sauerkraut and kimchi. Like it was a while before I was making anything. I was just like, I don't even want to see a crock. I don't want to, just burnt out on it all. And now it's like it's fully awakened again, and I'm really enjoying making kraut and sour and hot sauce and mustard and just all these things. And so I have some sauerkraut and some hot sauce for you.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I've got it marked and set aside so no one else will eat it.
Thank you, man. I would love to do a little like fermenting session. We've got 2 heads of cabbage growing in the garden. And so when they're ready, I think we should do some, like it could be cool to do a little fermenting party and use the stuff from the garden to make some kraut.
That'd be fun. Let's do it.
Yes, awesome. I've been, really just tuning into this, when we're good at something, we're sort of encouraged to commercialize it in our culture, and that's what I did with kombucha. And now that I've come back to brewing it just for me or for my loved ones or just as a creative act, it's made me realize actually the best things are not commercialized. The best things are made in some guy's basement, like fine wines or meads or any creation. The best ones are usually they're enjoyed for a brief period of time and then they're gone forever. And I've just kind of fallen in love with that idea of like trying things that people do because they love it so much. Whether it's something you ingest or even a work of art or spontaneous song or like your move of the moment, like Julie and I do that. What's your move of the moment? You just give a move with your body. Like I just love all of that because it's pure creation. It's pure, unadulterated, unegotized creation. And that's what this life is. We're living in this mysterious creation right now, and we're participating in it with our lives. Like to me, creativity has become somewhat of a prayer in that sense.
Yeah. Wow. Creativity has become a prayer. that like rings a bell inside me that feels like worthy of contemplation there. And what brings up is even like flipping that around as like prayer is also a creative act, right? It's
I love that.
like the way that I pray, it's like I'm engaging with my life. I'm engaging with these parts of me that have longing and gratitude and struggle, and it's like I'm yeah, I don't know, somehow like putting it into a vessel. And like someone said to me recently, like prayer is like this like opening up of your heart, and like it's like it's a way of being like fully honest with yourself, with the universe. It's just like, oh, this is what's actually here.
Mm-hmm.
And really like peeling open the layers and being like, this is what's in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is, a sorrow, like, or a grief, or a longing, or a praise, or it's like fully being honest with the biggest version of yourself you can imagine, which we call God or the universe or Great Spirit. It's just like, yeah, like, Great Spirit, help me. I don't know what to do with this really big feeling, whatever that is. Yeah. Huh.
I love that. I love what you're saying, and it makes me think a lot of different things, but I guess what's most alive in response to that is like the creative act can be a prayer. The prayer can be a creative act. Sometimes prayers have words, and sometimes they have no words. Sometimes it has action, sometimes it has no action. And so a prayer really is just engaging with that greater spirit in a way that's, it's like I'm opening my whole self to that spirit in whatever way the moment is calling for. Sometimes I need help, so I pray for help. Other times my prayer is just to be with that presence, to honor that presence and honor my own small piece in this grand mysterious universe that we're living in, because no moment is ever going to be the same, and it's never going to happen again. So engaging with life in a prayerful way is one of the most important things we can do. And it's just so fascinating because growing up Catholic and Christian, like a prayer was sort of like a conversation with God. And it was almost always praying for things that we want, and things that we're grateful for. And, I really believe we're given what we can handle, and oftentimes we're given what we want. But that's not really what prayer is about. And it didn't really land for me until my adult years, what actually is happening when you pray. And I still perhaps can't even put it into words, but I imagine what I'm pointing to, you're picking up on, and whoever's listening, I hope it resonates.
Mm. Yeah. I'm curious if this resonates with you, with what you're saying here. It's like, yeah, it's not, it can be. I mean, there's so many ways to pray. There's like 10,000 ways to pray at least. I mean, oftentimes it is that like, where do we start? It's like, well, this is what I'm grateful for, and this is what I'm wanting, like I'm engaging with like gratitude for what I have, but I'm also moving towards things that I want. And I mean, that in itself is such a dynamic part of being human, right? It's like I want to find that balance of there is motion towards things, there is desire, there is attraction, and I want these things, and there's struggle, and there's things in my way, and I'm also grateful for what I have. So it's like, maybe it makes sense that that's often how prayer is depicted, and maybe that's where a lot of us start. But something I heard recently, it was like shifting away from this idea of like God as Santa Claus, meaning like, okay, God, I want this and this and this and this and this. Can I please have these things? I've been really good, you know. Like, here's my shopping list of things that I would really like. Please can I have these things, you know? And maybe, you know, this idea is like, maybe God isn't the grantor of wishes per se. Maybe God is like your best friend who walks alongside you always, who's always there, this presence that's like walking with you along the path, that, yeah, I don't know, something even just in that. I mean, I feel like maybe there's another thought or two that I've had around that, but even just that, it's like I've started to try to shift my own prayers of like, okay, God, like, I have this longing, I have these things that I want, and I'm not necessarily being like, can you give them to me, please? It's more like, can you be with me in this process of longing? Like, man, I don't know. You know, I'm like facing the mystery. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if these things, how they're going to come or if they're going to come. And wow, it's a lot, even just to like really want something. And
Mm-hmm.
asking, you know, just for that presence, like I'm asking, you know, my best friend to be like, just be with me, or like help me navigate this time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm
Mm-hmm.
not seeing something, will you show me, you know, like I'm open, or like, I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting place that I'm finding to like play with that shift.
I love that description of prayer much more than the wish granter way of thinking about it. And I think that's sort of, until you've had an experience of coming into contact with God, that's sort of what it feels like. But once you have known God in your own life, it ceases to be that. It begins to be more of that friendly companion that's always there with you, helping you through. And that's why one of my favorite prayers is, please help me to understand your will. Please help me to understand what it is I'm here to do.
Mm,
And also help me to get out of the way so that you can work through me.
mm,
Those are my daily prayers. I pray those things almost every day, because it kind of brings that idea of like, okay, I don't think about moving my hand. I just move my hand, right? We've talked about this before. I don't think about walking. I just walk. Well, what if your whole life can be lived that way? What if you can get out of the way so much that you're not thinking about the actions you take, you're just acting, but with pure clarity? That
mm,
to me is what it means when I say work through me, or help me to understand your will so that I may work more clearly. And I want to share something with you, because I certainly believe that our external reality is a mirror for our internal reality. And oftentimes things that we experience or witness on the outside, there's a lesson there, or it has something to tell us. And so, you know, I've got this cat, Bjorn, and he's a great cat. He loves to be outside and hunt and play, and he gets used to being outside. And so when he's, you know, wakes up early in the morning, he first thing, as soon as he hears the birds chirping, he wants to go outside and hunt. He loves it. He wants to get out there. But he gets up a lot earlier than most of us. I mean, I'm up pretty early, but he's up earlier than I am, and he whines. He meows and meows and meows and meows and meows, whining, whining. I want to go outside. I want to go outside. I want to go outside. And I had this realization, like, when he does that, I don't want to let him outside. I'm like, no, you little fucker, you're gonna stay inside as long as you're whining. And I'm like, is that how God works? He doesn't like whiners. Like if you keep asking and asking and asking, I want this thing, I want it so bad, I want this way of life, I want this partner, I want this money. You're whining and whining and whining. God's not going to give it to you the more you whine. But as soon as you become detached, as soon as you let it go, like, yeah, I want that thing, but it'll come when it's time. That's when you get it.
Mm.
You know, we're like the whining cats in the morning when we want something. And if we would just shut up and just let go, it would probably come. It's like you can put the intention out there, but don't ask so many times. Just put it out there and trust that it's coming to you.
Mm.
Because if he's quiet in the morning, I let him out right away.
That's funny. Huh. I mean, I guess, yeah, in this case, like in some ways you are God to that cat, right? Like you control a lot. Huh. My mind goes to like, is there a way to look at that too? Like, right, if like your external reality is reflective of your internal, is like some part of you whining to get out, right? Or like, I don't know, like that there's an interesting, because on some level, like a cat doesn't, I mean, you can train animals, right? You can train domesticated animals to be a certain way, to respond a certain way. Like, oh, okay, when I don't whine, I get what I want, right? When I don't bark, I get the treats and that kind of thing. But also like a cat's just being a cat. A cat's just like there's some part of that's kind of amazing to me. Similar to like a kid, like they will just whine nonstop. Like there's no part of them that's going to be like, this isn't working, I'm going to change my tactic necessarily in that moment, right? Like maybe over time they can be trained, but it's like they'll just go. A dog will bark nonstop, tirelessly, right? And it's like their whole being is barking, right? Like if we do that, like our voice is going to get hoarse. But a dog, like their whole body does it, and it's just like they'll just like ha 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 nonstop for hours, untired, like without getting tired. And so I don't know, like there's just some part of like of that I wonder how that fits into this,
Yeah, I don't know. I just, maybe it's not 100% accurate with the animal, but I took that as a lesson in for myself. Like don't have this intense longing for something. Don't be attached to
Mm-hmm.
what it is that I want, because I don't know how it's going to come to me, you know. But I do know that if I'm attached to it and I'm fixated on it, that's creating suffering. And I imagine the higher being probably doesn't, I don't know, that's just not like, I guess the analogy fit for me because in my past I have sort of had intense longing for a desired outcome. And although I do believe, repeating affirmations and setting intention is good, there comes a point where it's like if you're overdoing it, then it's actually not going to get you what you want, because then you're stuck in the feeling of not having it.
Yeah.
It's like I want this thing so bad because I don't have it now.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and I didn't mean to question where, well, like the lesson you were getting out of that or anything. It's such an interesting piece about being human, right? Like engaging with like longing, desire, attachment, non-attachment, right? Like, I don't know. It's a mystery.
It sure is. I wanted to ask you how things have been going with the energy healer.
Been good. I mean, I just had, this is my second session, and it feels like the 5 weeks since the first session were like packed. Like a lot happened in that 5 weeks. And a lot, I mean, you know, the first week we're really looking at like my voice, my throat chakra, like just this energy center of like how it closes down. And in the past 5 weeks, like I've had several key moments. A few where I needed to say something, and it's like I waited too long. I crossed a certain threshold within myself, and I noticed it's so painful. It was so painful for me to have gone past my limit, and then feel like, oh, now it's even harder for me to say something because I'm kind of like, I'm like wrapped up inside myself. And so I just like, there was one in particular where that happened, where I was just like, it's so uncomfortable. And then I
Hmm.
finally did say something. I finally did use my voice. But you know, in that case, like I couldn't even really celebrate that I said something, because it was like, it was, I had just gone past my limit. Right. And so like that's just an interesting thing in itself, where it's like, now I have this awareness where when I didn't say something, now it's like, oh, that hurts so much. And then I mean, I also had several, like 3 or 4 times that I can think of, that I did say something, and I said something even like before I even got close to that threshold, where it was just like, oh, I notice I need to create a boundary, you know. Um, like the other day, Elise and I were outside, and we're kind of processing something a little heavier, and the neighbor walks up and just, you know, kind of chatty mindlessly, and um he kind of asked like, you guys okay, whatever, but then he was just like he's just like verbal vomiting, you know. And I just noticed like pretty quickly, I was like, I need to say something. I need to create a boundary. And I just did, you know, like I didn't let it go too long. I didn't sit there and like wait for him to pause and give me the opening to say something. I just interrupted and said, hey, you know, actually, like we're like in the middle of processing something. So like, can you give us some space? And he did, and it was great. And it was just like, it felt like a really key moment for me. Like it was such a, it's like to him, he probably didn't even notice. It's a non-event, you know. But for me, it was like, that feels more free. That feels more like I can actually trust myself a little bit more when that urge, that impulse comes up to speak, and I just do it, and it's like, oh yeah, that's the way I want to be. And so that feels connected to the energy work we've been doing. And yeah, it's a fascinating process. I mean, just like how attuned she can be to certain things. And I'm so interested. Like I wish I could do it every week. Just because it's fascinating, you know. Like, and she'll have these little insights of like, oh yeah, you're, yesterday, like we were really working on my feet and my legs, and I have this, like my ankles will crack all the time, ever since, you know, as long as I can remember, my ankles will crack. And there's sometimes where it's like, it feels like the energy is like bound up inside my ankle, and I have to like crack it to release it. And lately I've noticed like that it keeps me up at night sometimes, not very often, but once or twice in the last month since I saw her last, like I noticed that, and I could actually, I saw it in a different way. It was like, oh, like my chi is stuck there. Like something is stuck there. It's coagulated. It's, you know, and it needs a release. And so she was saying, like, as she's working on my feet, she's like, it's kind of like you're root bound. Like you're in a pot that's too small, and like your energetic roots are, they're all bound up. And so, like, so just like when you have to repot a root bound pot, we have to get in there and like loosen those roots up and actually like give them space. And like, so kind of my homework is to start exploring my feet more, my ankles, massaging them in a certain way, and kind of energetically, like, can I let my roots trust that they can open and spread, you know, so I can really like sink down into the security of my ankles, so my hips can trust my ankles, so my, you know, my torso can trust my hips, sort of thing. So it's fascinating stuff.
Wow, that's beautiful, brother. It I would take it even a step further and say that your ankles are supporting your voice too. It's like you're supporting your whole spine, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and all the way up to your voice. And as that continues to open up, I imagine your roots will continue to open up too, because it's all interconnected, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Really cool, man. Beautiful. I'm glad it's having some potent effects and giving you a new way to think about your human system.
yeah. um how are you on time? I have a kind of a story question for you, but curious how you're doing.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm chewing on this thing. It's like just the other day. So Fox medicine has like, Fox has just been like popped into my field, you know, just recently. So like Friday night there was a little gathering around here in Nyland, and my neighbor, she has a 6 month old son who I love this kid. Like he and I just, we have like this special connection. Like she even notices, she's like, you guys have something. Like, but I just like pick him up and I just like we'll just like start laughing hysterically at each other. He's 6 months old and I'm just like looking at him and he's looking at me and we're just like, yeah, this is amazing. Life is amazing. So, anyways, like he was there and he was wearing this little fox onesie. I'm like, oh, you're so cute. You're so cute. You know, just like this little red fox. And I didn't think much of that, but it was just like, you know, okay, there it is. And then the next day, Izzy sent me a video. He was out in the woods somewhere, and this black fox, he has this video of this black fox like coming right up to him. And he's like, hey, buddy, whatever. And this fox is just like, do, 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 like super close to him. And I'm like, that's amazing. And I'd never seen a black fox before. So I immediately get online and I'm just like Googling like foxes with all these different types of foxes. So I just have all these like fox imagery like in my head. I'm like, amazing. They're so varied. There's so many different types, and you know, they're so adaptable and all this stuff. And so then Saturday I had a massage with Izzy, and he was really like digging into my calves. And as he was digging into my calves, like the fox just like was like in my head, just like all these images of a fox that I had just looked up recently. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, you know, cool. And so then the next day I shared that with Izzy. And I was like, yeah, that was kind of cool. I don't know, you know, whatever. Foxes was just like in my head. And he was like, dude, that's wild that you said that, because when that fox came up to him when he was recording that video, when it came up to him, he saw the fox's legs and he was like, that reminds me of Devon. And he's like, I don't know why, but like that's what I thought. And he's like, you're, you know, like your legs, like they're very like stringy, sinewy, strong, right? Like my calves are like, they're very lean. And he just like saw this fox's legs and he thought of me. And so it's like, I'm like, that's incredible. I like, what do I think? What do I make of that? Right. And so that's just been with me. And so part of like how I start to engage with that, like I'm like, here's this mystery thing, right? And I at least like to believe that, okay, like Fox has a message for me, or like there's this, like the spirit of the fox has medicine for me. And so I get on, and I'm just like, the way I engage with that is like, I just like want to learn about foxes. Like I want to look at fox art. I want to like learn about like fun facts about fox, or like even like what sort of mythology is around a fox, what sort of like different cultural myths contain fox, and like what messages are there. And I think I had, I mean, just like the question I was going to put to you was like, when that sort of stuff happens for you, just like all of a sudden, like this animal is in your field, and there, it's like, how do you go about engaging with the mystery there? It's like, I don't necessarily speak fox. I can't go and like ask the fox directly, like, what message do you have for me? Do you have a message, or is this just coincidence or whatever? But like, I'm curious how you go about engaging with that.
Well, I must say that it's extremely synchronistic that we're talking about the fox right now, because for the past 18 months, the fox has been appearing to me as well in a variety of ways. And it started when I made the decision back in October to close my business and start this new path. And ever since then, it will either appear to me in visions, or it'll be like a symbol of a fox or the animal, or a conversation about the fox. And the way I look at that is, it's a synchronicity. It's a breadcrumb that my higher self is leaving for me to let me know I'm on the right track. There's a number of those that are important symbols in my life. And if we really are in a hologram, then it's almost like the creator of the hologram is putting these little symbols in and around us. And for me, the importance is, a synchronicity is something significant, and maybe you don't know why it's significant, but it keeps appearing. And so I try and pay attention to whatever's happening in my world whenever that symbol pops up. And the fact that you brought this up to me right now is so profound, because I'm just like, the fox is sort of an elusive creature. You don't see them very often. They're good at hiding. They're sly. They're omnivorous. I've sort of looked at the fox totem as like an energetic whisperer. Like it can do things for me. It will go and whisper in somebody's ear, or it'll bring me back a little trinket, or it will, this is all metaphorical, but I don't know what it is. I don't know where it's going to lead me, but it's been leading me in really cool places. And the fact that we're talking about it right now is very synchronistic, because I feel like we're on this path together in a lot of ways. It's like the fox is guiding both of us now. And it's been leading me to more of my true self, and to more success and prosperity in an elusive way. It's like I was asking for help because I wanted to sell my company, and I was calling upon the fox a lot and leaving out little offerings and stuff like that. And that didn't happen. But regardless, I'm in such a good place now. Like maybe there's a reason I didn't sell, So it's like, it's taking me on its own sneaky path through the forest to where I want to go, or where it wants to lead me or go with me. But to answer your question, I do the same thing. I kind of look up facts about the creature and try and learn about it, and try and learn about its behavior, and see if there's some nuggets in there that are important for me to focus on in my own life. And I just love the sly, mysterious nature of the fox. And the black fox too. Like, that's such a powerful, I can't, first of all, can't even believe that happened to him. And second of all, I'm like, that's cool that you're like the black fox, you know, like that's a rare form of the fox even. You know, like there's something about black creatures that's very mysterious. We saw a black squirrel the other day, all black, and they're rare. But yeah, I just try and learn as much as I can about whatever it is, and then I don't really look for it, but whenever it appears, I'm like, pay attention, because there's something here for me, or this is giving me motivation to keep going in this direction, or this is trying to tell me that I'm on the right path, or there's something here for me if I keep following whatever this is. Like, that's why I like magpies so much. They have the same synchronistic quality for me. They're like breadcrumbs. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. And like, I mean, I can feel like there's some part of me that wants to grasp, because it's like, it's such a cool synchronicity, right? When these things happen, that like, there's some part of me that like wants to capture it and be able to like harness it or something, right? And maybe that's a part of, there's some part of like where I'm coming from when I ask that. It's like, how do you do it? Am I doing it right? You know? And I can also just like relax into it and just kind of like, yeah, it is cool. It is like, it lights me up when these synchronicities happen, and like fox feels like such a potent, like there's a cool factor to fox medicine. And yeah, I think I'm just kind of walking myself to a place of like, yeah, follow the joy, follow the impulse to look it up, follow the impulse to like engage creatively with it. And also, like, it is a mystery, so don't try to like grasp and find to like control it. When's it going to come again? You know, just like, okay, if fox comes, it comes, and pay attention when it does. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like that little synchronicity of like it almost felt like that fox energy came to me through Izzy, right? It's like it came to Izzy, and Izzy had the thought of me, and then Izzy was working on my calves, and like that fox spirit, like it is this sort of circuitous route that it like came into my field. This is fascinating.
Did you look up any facts about the fox?
I have a little, and just like they're so adaptable, right? They're actually like, they're a lot more feline than canine. They're a lot similar to cats, like where they're nocturnal. They're the only uh they're the only canine creature that can retract its claws like a cat. That's fascinating. And they have this sort of more like feline, like almost feminine energy, where it's like they're very slippery, right? And I think what's standing out to me, one, is like they're so adaptable, and even they come in so many varieties. And even like the red fox, which is the most common, the most widespread, it has all these different colorings. Like the black fox is a color variation of the red fox, but can also come in gray and silver and patchwork. And so even within the species of red fox, they're so adaptable. They come in so many different forms. And so, I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing that stands out to me. And it's like, the question I'm sitting with is like my own adaptability, you know, like are there ways that I need to be more adaptable, or even just like celebrating the ways that I am adaptable? Like maybe it's like, maybe not necessarily a change needs to happen, but that's kind of just the question of like, oh yeah, how am I with my adaptability? I wear a lot of different hats, and am I being asked to wear a different hat right now, or just acknowledge that I do have capability to wear a lot of different hats? Okay, Fox energy is like it. He does come to me from time to time. He's kind of been this thread for some years, just in and out, little bits where it's like, oh, he's there, he's alive with me, right? Oh, he's there, and so yeah.
I'm curious to see how else it's going to appear in your life, and I'd also be interested to know more about the behavior of the fox, and see what other behavioral aspects might resonate for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Nonetheless, it's really cool totem.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, do you have any last words or thoughts for today?
Oh, yeah, I'll just say I've decided to shift and start taking Mondays off. And I'll probably I have a little bit of like work that I need to get done today, but also just that like it feels like a nice energetic shift for me to just kind of carve out that space and trust that I'll still get enough paid work done. And also I can start to create some space for more creativity, for more, visioning, for that kind of thing. And it just feels like I can feel the shift post solstice. Leading up to solstice, it's just like everything is building, more sun, more energy, more blossoms, more things to tend to, and we're still, we're right there in the peak of that. Days are super long still. It's even like hardly noticeable. But there's something that I feel energetically has shifted where it's like, okay, it is starting to slow down now. Right. And I can trust in that, and I can feel that. And like, even just for the first time ever, like there's a lot like sadness for me when at the summer solstice was like, oh, now the days are getting shorter, but for the first time ever, I'm like, oh, thank God. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad the days are getting shorter. Like I like the cyclical nature. I like the seasons. And now it's like, yeah, okay. It's not going to keep building forever. And so that just feels alive and like resonant with the fact that I'm taking Mondays off. So it's like, okay, a little bit of space. That's nice. Still a lot of stuff to do, but I can engage with it in this way and say like, no, I get Mondays for a little bit more me time. So that's what I got. That's what I'm looking forward to today.
Wonderful. There's a lot of fire in June. It's felt the same for me, just very full and alive and almost electric. Just the amount of stuff happening, and it certainly feels good to kind of draw back to the earth a little bit. The ash is falling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we got a lot of summer left to go, so I'm okay with things slowing down a little bit.
Yeah.
Same. Well, this has been a pleasure, man. I think if I were to have any last thoughts, they would be, well, I'm about to go on vacation, so I'm really going to drop into that slowing down, and it's already started happening since the solstice of just being more, experiencing more without any agenda to move forward from. And so I'm looking forward to dropping into the earth and the water and coming back with a sense of invigoration. And I'm really looking forward to our next men's workshop and the work that we're continuing to put out there together.
Beautiful. I love it. Excited for you to go on vacation and soak that in, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It'll be good. I've had seemingly little time to put towards my purposeful work, and I've also cut back my schedule in July, so I'm really feeling the creative motivation to start honing things in again and grounding down all that creative fire.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, this is awesome. Thank you for the conversation.
Yeah.
It's a really fun conversation. I hope our listeners enjoy it. And until next time.
Until next time. Peace, brother.
One love. One love.
One love.